So I wanted to share a little bit about spiritual warfare. If you're like me and you grew up in a Christian household where spiritual warfare was talked about, demonic spirits, or encounter with demonic spirit was a thing. I feel like for me, when people talked about spiritual warfare, I've always thought that it was about me encountering like demonic spirit or me having an encounter literally with Satan. And I'll be so fearful, I'll be so anxious. And as I've matured in my faith, I've had experiences where either in my dreams, I was seeing the demonic spirits, or I woke up and felt the demonic presence. But I feel like I didn't have people really talk to me about the spiritual warfare of your mind and how the enemy uses that as one of the biggest strategies. I think that in the last years of since coming to faith, I came to Christ in 2017, 2016, 2017. 27. I have it on my arm somewhere. 2016. Since coming to Christ in 2016, I experienced spiritual warfare like no other when it came to my mind, but I didn't know that was spiritual warfare, or I knew that was spiritual warfare in some extent, but didn't really realize that it is a strategy of the enemy to wear you down and to normalize it. One of the biggest things that I dealt with was I struggle a lot with doubt, confusion, depression, anxiety, fear, lack of purpose, lack of joy. And it would come through different seasons of my life, just feeling kind of lost. Or I would just not experience just true joy in certain seasons of my life. But it almost was so normalized when I would have conversations with other friends. Or so normalized in our society right now. You know, depression is almost talked about everywhere you go, anxiety, or experiencing confusion, especially in your 20s. But I think that we can get lost between just experiencing a lack of joy, or experiencing moments of sadness, with like real battlefield of the mind, like the enemy just taking your joy away, or attacking your joy, attacking your peace, attacking your hope, feeling so much confusion about your life, your future, even desire to live for Christ. Like that is full on spiritual warfare. But it's just not talked about enough, and we've normalized it. And I was running a couple of days ago, and I woke up, was feeling great, was feeling fine, just in worship of the Lord, just enjoying just the day. It was like nothing crazy, just enjoying my day. And something happened in the middle of the day where immediately I was just filled with anxious thoughts, and filled with such a hopelessness that just was sparked by one thought. And I feel like as I was running, I feel like God was gently telling me, like, do not entertain these thoughts. Do not, if this thought is not glorifying me, is not worshiping me, it's not encouraging, it's not building you up or building others up, why am I allowing myself to entertain this thought? But I think that we, at least for myself, I have such a hard time being able to filter that and say, oh wait, the enemy is actually battling my mind right now, but I've just come to normalize it. Or like I'll have, just daily just doses of fantasies, and not being present, and not realizing that it's a spiritual warfare. Not being present to the now and to the reality of what's happening right now is a sense of deceit that I'm putting in my brain, in my mind. And I'm not talking about having hopes for the future, dreaming of of the future, things like that. But I'm really just talking about if you're constantly living in a space of fantasies, if you're constantly living and creating scenarios in your mind, that is a full-on spiritual warfare. That is full-on living in deceit. The enemy will like to utilize that so you don't get to experience God now in the present, in the real. And I remember reading, I think this is like the book, but I think it's called Beloved. I forget who the author is, but he talks about how God isn't the God of our fantasies. He's not the God of the scenarios we create in our minds. Like he knows nothing about who that person is. But he knows, and that term, he knows nothing about who that person. But whatever image you're creating is not, or fantasy you're creating in your brain, like that is not of Christ. That is not what Christ has called you, because you're not living in that space right now. And so, just being aware of the fantasies and the scenarios that we create in our minds, and not that separates us from Christ. And that is a way that the enemy utilizes and battles with us in our mind. Especially if you cannot, not say stop, you cannot stop yourself. If you're constantly in that space, and if it becomes so hard to get out of your own head, that's when we start to realize like this is a strategy of the enemy. And I just kind of wanted to read Ephesians 6, putting the whole armor of God, and what really stood out to me. So Ephesians 6, verse 10 says, starting at verse 10 says, "Family, be strong in the Lord in the strength of his might. Put on the all armor of God, that you may be able to stand against the schemes of the devil." Like the schemes of the devil, like I just emphasis on the schemes. Like what seems so normal to us is not normal. What seems like just a thought that is a depressive thought that is going through our mind is not normal. Or a depressive season, and we're just feeling lost and confused, and isn't normal things that we should just accept. But I truly believe there are schemes of the devil and the enemy. But I say we do not wrestle against flesh and blood, but against the rulers, like against the authority, against the cosmic powers over this present darkness, against the spiritual forces of evil in the heavenly places. Therefore, take up the whole armor of God, that you may be able to withstand in the evil day, and having done all, to stand firm. So I just really an encouragement to not give in into the thoughts that so easily feels like normal thoughts. If you're feeling really so lethargic for days, if you're feeling a sense of hopelessness and feeling so much lack of joy for seasons, for years, and it just continuously on, I think it's when you really have to bring up to the Lord and say, or stand up and say, God, this is of Christ. This isn't normal. This isn't just me experiencing anxiety, but could this, just really asking God, could this really be an attack? Just wanted to encourage someone out there who might be in the same space that I've been at for years now, or seasons where I just like feel this sense of hopelessness, or this sense of lack of joy or lack of hope, and normalizing it, that it is just that it's just an okay thing. Like I would just go on for days feeling unhappy, or feel like confused a lot, of like, what am I supposed to do, where am I going, and then being almost paralyzed by that confusion. So those are really schemes of the enemy, the schemes of ways that he's trying to normalize things that is, it's just a normal thing. But no, it's not a normal thing to be really constantly confused, without direction, without peace. That is not of Christ, and we must stand firm in prayer, in speaking truth into our lives, and opening up and letting people in our community know, because when things are brought into light, truly it is the power is so lessened. And I wish I had a better word to say it, but I have noticed times and times when I've experienced just seasons of darkness and depression or anxiety, and have finally opened up to a friend, or finally speak it out, just how much less heavier it really does feel, the situation feels, or the darkness really start to subdue. And I think that's because when we bring things into light, in Christ's light, things really do happen, and freedom begins to happen. So, and allowing people to speak truth into a lie. So Yeah, just really wanted to share and encourage someone out there who might be really struggling with just feeling a lack of confusion or depression or anxiety or fear that has just got them stuck. Like, that is just not a normal thing. I do realize that depression exists, anxiety do exist, but not letting it be so normalized that it can be spiritual warfare, because the enemy is very, cunning, and he will utilize the things that feel so normal to us or normal to our families, or friendship or society, to not have you stand firm and declare God's truth over your life. So yeah, just stand firm and be encouraged. God is with you and is fighting with you.